The group of emerging economies known as BRICS makes up more than 40% of the world's population and a quarter of the global economy, which aims to challenge a world order seen to be dominated by the US and its Western allies.
A brand new kind of money is being made. It's going to be used by countries all over the world, and it's meant to shake up the way things are done right now. This is happening because of a group of 5 countries called the BRICS Alliance. Let me give you some facts about how strong they are becoming. By the end of 2023, they are expected to control 25% of all the things that they sell to other countries, which is about 29% of all the money made in the world in a year. That's what we call the world's GDP, or how much stuff the world produces in a year. They will also make about 43% of all the world's oil, and nearly half of all the people in the world will be living in these countries. But here's the really important part. These BRICS countries are getting even more powerful than another group of countries called the G7. They have a way to measure how good life is in a country, and the BRICS countries are doing better by that measure. They also have about 50% of all the people in the world who have jobs, and they take up a big part of the world's land. So they are growing a lot and getting much stronger.
Saudi Arabia has the backing of Russia and Brazil.
40 countries have already asked to be part of the BRICS group. Starting next year in 2024, 6 new countries will join them. These new countries are Saudi Arabia, Iran, Ethiopia, Egypt, Argentina, and the United Arab Emirates. This is important because these big oil-producing countries are joining the BRICS group, and there's talk that they might use a special kind of money tied to gold. All of this is happening because these countries want to challenge the dominance of the United States and Western countries. They want to use less of the US dollar in the world. This is already starting to happen because the amount of US dollars that countries keep in their central banks is at a 20-year low, just 58%. Even experts at JP Morgan, a big bank, are saying that the importance of the US dollar has gone down a lot from 2014 to 2022. So, this raises some big questions. Why are these countries doing this? What's wrong with the US dollar? And if they succeed, could it mean that Ray Dalio's prediction comes true? That all the world's main currencies will eventually no longer be as important? This is one of the most important things happening in the world right now. And in this video, we'll explain what's going on and how it might affect us. I hope you're doing well. Come here for the finance and stick around for the BRICS. Before we dive in, I want to say up front that I'm not a history buff or an economist. I'm just trying to put together a complex story and explain it to you. If I get anything wrong, please don't hesitate to correct me in the comments. Now, let's begin by finding out who these countries are.
Jim O'Neill was an economist at the Goldman Sachs. He made an observation about the developing world. He pointed out how high the growth rates were in Brazil, Russia, India, and China.
The global financial crisis really made members of the emerging market, members of the global south, started to question the relevance and the trustworthiness of the US-led global financial system.
It was a recession that made everyone start to doubt how dependable the US global financial system was. This doubt led to the very first official meeting of the BRIC countries in Russia in 2009. A year later, South Africa joined the group, and that's how we got the BRICS. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Now they're about to grow even bigger because they're adding 6 more countries to their team. Now, why are they doing this? And why are they challenging the US dollar, especially when the dollar seems strong? Well, the answer is pretty complicated, but let's break it down. The world we know today, how things work globally, was mostly set up after World War II. In 1944, there was something called the Bretton Woods Agreement. It gathered 44 countries and made the US dollar the world's reserve currency. Why the US dollar? Mainly because the US was the strongest country left standing after the war. Now in 1945, President Franklin Roosevelt had a secret meeting that changed history. Although not much was written down, Roosevelt promised Saudi Arabia protection in exchange for the exclusive right to develop Saudi Arabia's oil. This created the petrodollar, which gave the US 3 big advantages. First, it made global trade more stable because everyone trusted the US dollar. Second, it turned the US into an investment powerhouse, attracting money from all over the world. Third, it linked energy to the dollar's strength, making the US and the West very powerful. Here's the real kicker. Being the world's reserve currency allowed the US to print money without causing much inflation. Other countries can't do this without causing problems, but the US, as the world's currency, can export dollars without causing inflation. This power helped the US control many things worldwide. Now, some countries are coming together to create their own alliance and currency because they want to reduce their reliance on the US dollar. But where can countries borrow money if they don't want to owe anyone favors? They create their own bank. That's what the BRICS did with the New Development Bank, NDB, their version of the IMF, International Monetary Fund. The NDB lends money for development and infrastructure projects with favorable terms. The potential long-term consequences of this move could be quite impactful, affecting both investors and the middle class in the United States. For investors, a shift away from the US dollar as the dominant global currency could be detrimental. If confidence in the dollar wanes and it's not in as high demand, investors might withdraw their investments from the US. This could result in reduced interest in US stocks and real estate. As a result, these markets might suffer, impacting the wealth and portfolios of investors who have stakes in them. On the flip side, the middle class could also bear the brunt of this transition. When there's less demand for dollars globally, it becomes more challenging for the US to use its printing press to tackle domestic economic challenges. The US often prints more money to stimulate its economy, but if other countries don't need those dollars, it leads to an oversupply within the US economy. This oversupply can contribute to inflation, which we're already starting to witness in various aspects of the economy, such as rising oil prices. In fact, the effects of this shift away from the dollar are already visible, particularly in the increasing inflation rates in the US. This is further exacerbated by the fact that oil prices, which are typically denominated in dollars, are on the rise. This adds to inflation pressures within the US dedollarization. The process of reducing reliance on the dollar is an inevitable trend, and it has been unfolding for some decades now. However, the timeline for complete de-dollarization remains uncertain. It might not even occur within our lifetimes. The complexity of the global financial landscape and the lack of a clear strategy among BRICS countries for achieving this transition make it difficult to predict. One of the challenges facing BRICS is their diverging goals and interests. While they all seek to reduce their dependence on the dollar, they do not necessarily share a common vision. For instance, China, Russia, and South Africa seem more eager to expand the BRICS group and lessen their ties with the US, while India and Brazil prefer to maintain positive relations with the US and use BRICS primarily for negotiation purposes. This divergence in objectives could hinder the group's ability to act cohesively. Critics argue that BRICS's lack of consensus and clear direction weakens its influence. They believe that these countries' differing priorities make it challenging for them to act as a united front. The fear is that the BRICS alliance might lean toward autocratic tendencies without a common purpose. Proponents, however, contend that if these nations can find common ground and successfully create a currency that rivals the dollar's strength, it could bring about positive global economic changes. Such a shift could lead to economic prosperity in more countries, potentially reducing conflicts, poverty, and ultimately contributing to world peace. In conclusion, the future is uncertain, and we are witnessing a significant transformation in global economics. The fate of the US dollar remains uncertain, and the impact of de-dollarization on various aspects of our lives is still unfolding. Whether this marks the end of the dollar's dominance or a step toward a more balanced global economic landscape is a matter of debate. Your thoughts on this pivotal moment in history are welcome. Regardless of the outcome, we are living through fascinating times. Thank you for watching. Your support is greatly appreciated. See you soon. Goodbye.